All right, today we're planting no-till potatoes.
So these are potatoes from last season. We put them in the cool room. They can't be cold. They've got to be cool. If they go cold, they go rotten. And these are ready for planting today. So we just lay them on the ground, lay the potato on there, sprinkle a little bit of compost on each one, and then a thick layer of hay over the top. And then they end up with a nest of potatoes. So one of these will generate maybe 10, 12 potatoes. Got to be planted now just before winter. They don't like it too soggy, but they don't like dry. So we've had pretty moist soils at the moment. As long as they don't rot away, they'll grow really good potatoes. They can only rot away if you get too much rain when they first get planted.
Want to get an idea how many kilos we're putting in so we know how many kilos we pull out. Give us a perspective for next year when we plant. We want to have a basis to work from. We'll get our yield that we get off of this. We get our seed potatoes. We put in, we think about 80 kilos last year. We want to see how many kilos we're putting this year so I can have a comparison. And then I can measure my results. If you don't measure what you're putting in, you can't measure result what comes out. 8.8. We're just bringing up the pH a little bit. Also, with just this soil we have, basically we're using our lab results that we get back, and based on our lab results, it's giving us some perspective on what our ground needs to amend. Potatoes are a heavy feeder, and they're in the ground a long time. So, Oscal, it's got some lime in it. It works like a lime, but it's like twice as strong. So it'll bring calcium and lime in. Both will be good for this bed. Both be good for making sure we get drainage through in here and help. And then, but we should be good, and then we'll just compost down and get the potatoes down. All right, so we're about halfway done. We've got a lot of potatoes down on the ground. What we've done is we've set them on the soil 30 centimeters apart. We put down some Oscal down in here, and we've covered them all with basically a little pile of compost to make sure they got a good organic material with the nutrients they need to grow and get going. And then we're covering all that with straw. That straw creates that area to block out the sunlight, also gives them a medium to grow in.
Okay, what I'm doing, I'm mulching over the potatoes with quite a thick, heavy mulch. And this heavy mulch protects the potato from the sun. Potatoes hate the sun. And this heavy mulch turns into soils, right? So the potato consumes it. It's actually like a potato growing in a nest. So in 6 months' time when we peel this back, there'll be like a little nest of Easter eggs.
The real advantage in this method, besides not having to till the land, which is right now, given how wet our soil is a great thing that we don't have to till because we wouldn't be able to, one. Two is we don't have to dig these out later. They'll actually just be in the straw. So we'll go through, the potato plant will grow in the straw. It'll use the minerals that it's getting from the soil below it and from the compost that's been put down, and it'll grow up during that. We'll feed this over the next 6 months while we're waiting for them to come through with compost teas and other things and EMs that'll keep the life flowing in there. So it's an effective method. It reduces the amount of labor you're doing. It means you're not tilling your soil. And overall, we should see a similar productivity in the end from the potato itself, with a higher productivity in our standpoint, a lot less labor going in.
So a lot of these hay may be able to sit down in the weather, and that's exactly what we want, because they're already halfway to compost, right? So they do exactly what we want. They give the potato a dark, nutritious bed.
It's going to break down faster. It's actually got a lot of the fungal growth that we want to have in it that we're going to want to get down into the soil. If we were to bring in a young, fresh cut grass, it'd be a ton of nitrogen we'd be putting down here. We've got enough nitrogen with what we put down with chicken manure and with compost to handle what we need. Now we just need a really good growing medium. This is a cost-effective growing medium that's actually efficient for us from a productive standpoint. And you know, we're sowing 90 kilos, but there's several hundred potato seedlings we're putting down right now. I expect our yield's going to be pretty massive, and we're covering a fair amount of space I'm already over 100 meters of planting that we have in here so far. That's 300 feet of potatoes, and we've still got a third of it to go. So we're gonna end up somewhere in that 400, 450 feet, 150 meter range of potatoes sowed. And each of these beds is a meter wide. We'll start to see the potato plant growing up through the straw. That'll start to happen. They'll grow right up through this. That'll show us where our plants are so we know when we're harvesting.
The potatoes will come up about this, maybe about that high. We'll re-mulch them and they'll have to grow again. Then they'll grow all the potatoes out of their neck. So you'll almost double your yield.
We'll leave them in the ground, they'll keep growing, they'll get bigger, and we'll want to get them out of the ground before it starts getting wet again. So for us, that's going to be September, October harvest. And as long as the ground's still a good medium for them to grow in, we'll have them in there.